Okay. And we are live. Hello, Living Seeds Veggie Gardeners. So nice to see everybody. I'm not 100% sure. This is the first time I'm using this version of Facebook Live. So I'm not 100% sure how it works. But if anybody can see me, say hi. Cool. Is that my Facebook notification saying I am live?
Yeah, Freeman is live now.
There we go. Fantastic. Hendrik, hello Hendrik, how are you doing? How's day, I think it's today's day 17 of lockdown? We haven't seen any updates from you. Is today day 18?
18 or 19.
It's 18 or 19. It's day whatever of lockdown. How's it? Hey Owen, how's it going, dude? Okay, there we go. Is it working? Fantastic, Jean. It's so nice to hear that it's working. Okay, we're going to wait for a couple of people to just pitch in and say, how's it? Just oil my vocal cords quickly. Okay, guys, so we're on day 18 of lockdown, and we've seen a massive uptick in new members on Living Seeds Veggie Gardeners, which is really very cool. A lot of new gardeners asking questions. What do I plant now? How do I plant this? How do I plant that? So basically this live stream is just to help answer questions for existing gardeners and new gardeners. I think this is the first question and answer live stream that I'm doing. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So basically the idea is for you guys to just ask any questions that you might have around gardening. We are currently in our show garden. We're in our gourd tunnel. There's not many gourds that are left over here. Most of the gourds have been taken off, and we've either given them to staff or handed them out to people that were here. So what we have growing, or what we've planted in our show gardens, we've planted all of our winter crops. So we've got a whole lot of brassicas, we've got our root crops, we've planted cabbages, we've planted broccoli, cauliflower, we've planted kales, we've planted all of our lettuce. Robert, bring that here. We've planted all of our lettuce varieties. One of the things that we do, we've got about, I think there's about 20 of these. 16 or 17 of these. And these are, let me just, I see this camera is reversed. So these are bug hotels. And what we've done is we use these bug hotels to actually catch indigenous pollinators of a wide variety. But if you have a look over here, you can see the bottom, they've actually been filled in. So these have been filled in over here, and the smaller ones have been filled in as well. We've got 3 different size holes going all the way up, and the smaller holes, nothing's taken them yet, but the larger and the medium size holes are actually being used by chochas to actually make homes. So what we'll do, those of you that have been following Living Seeds will know that we can't import carrot seed anymore without exceptionally expensive tests being done on the carrot seed. And we're looking anywhere between, just the tests alone, we're looking anywhere between $500 and about $1,500 just to get a sample tested. If it fails the first test at $500, it needs to be autoclaved in a very specific manner, at a specific temperature and at a specific pressure, and then retest it again. If it fails the test the second time, then you just have to discard the seed. So we can no longer import carrot seed. So what we're doing is we are growing carrot seed on our farm. We've got 7 specific tunnels that we are using to grow the carrot seed, and then those bug hotels, what we'll be doing is once we seal the tunnels off, we'll take those bug hotels and put them inside the tunnels, and the pollinators will work inside the tunnels, pollinating all of the carrot flowers, which is quite cool, because we can't put a beehive inside there. The bees don't work the carrot flowers as much. The primary pollinator for carrots is actually flies, so we'll be catching flies and releasing flies inside there, as well as those solitary bees that are using the bug hotels. So yes, fantastic, Michaela. Thank you very much. Hi, Andre, Olivia. Good morning. How are you doing? Jolene, how's it going? Had to stop gardening to tune in. Looking forward to the talk. Fantastic. Well, it's a very impromptu talk at the moment. Margie, hi, how's it going? Deborah, can you hear me loud and clear? I'm so glad. We actually ran a test on one of our private groups. I actually had a microphone that I was going to be using just to make sure that everything was working, and the microphone didn't work. So there was a scramble to get everything up and running just before 10 o'clock. Okay, yes. Royce, hey dude, how's it going? Good to see you. I watched your challenge last night. Very impressive. Bonnie, hi, how's it going? Madeleine, hey guys. On Elena, that's very expensive. What's very, oh, the carrots, yes. Yeah, so just to give you some background, so certain seeds we can bring in without testing, but a lot of the seeds have to conform to very specific protocols. They need to be tested for certain diseases. They need to be, it needs to be insect free, etc. So when we bring seeds in, to bring our starter seed in, or even to bring bulk seed in, you're not just paying for the import of the seed, you're actually paying for the test. So there's a phytosanitary certificate. A phyto is $100. And that's a common phyto. Then you get phytos with declarations. And if you have multiple declarations on a phyto, each declaration, which is actually a test on a phyto, each declaration starts anywhere from $150 to $200. It can go up to $1,500, $2,000, depending on what test is required. And there are certain tests that are required by the South African Agricultural Department that companies overseas just do not do. So that seed you can't bring in unless you bring it in illegally. Okay, Michaela, thank you very much. It is an incredible project. We're very excited. Wayne, hey, how's it going, dude? Christine, yeah, I made it. There we go. Hoping to get some tips for my tiny balcony garden. So Christine, with your tiny balcony garden, I understand that it's tiny. And my advice to you would be to look at growing smaller crops. So look at the Thumbelina carrot, the small little round Parisian carrots, things like that, that don't need a lot of depth to actually grow. If you're looking at pots for your plants that you're growing, I would look for the largest pot that you can find and look for the best soil. So you're not looking at garden soil. You're looking at taking compost. You're looking, I really wouldn't look at potting soil. Potting soil is for pot plants. Pot plants don't have a very high nutrient requirement. They just need to grow leaves to look pretty. Whereas you're looking at planting a food crop, and that food crop needs to produce. So if you're planting a loose leaf lettuce, you'll be harvesting leaves off that lettuce on a regular basis. So you need to actually feed those plants. I know there's been a lot of issues, especially during the lockdown, with gardeners trying to find compost, trying to find high quality organic soil. And I'm hearing more and more reports of the larger Pick n Pays, the larger hypers. I believe Builders Warehouse is open as well. And they should allow you to buy potting soil, or not potting soil, but compost, vermicompost, things like that. I really can't see why they would not allow you to grow it. It just doesn't make sense to, or why they wouldn't allow you to buy potting soil. Let me just rephrase it, not potting soil, to buy compost and planting soils. It just makes sense that if they're allowing the sale of seed, they should be allowing the sale of the soil that allows you to grow the seed. So what I would do is I wouldn't lose my rag at the manager. I'd go and have a chat to the manager and say, listen, you're allowed to plant seed or you're allowed to sell seed. Why can't you sell the actual soils as well? Mervyn, hey, how's it going? Iona, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Good morning. Olivia, what herb seeds can we still germinate? So the herb seeds that you're looking at germinating now will be a lot of the winter crops. And you're looking at your times, you're looking at sages, you're looking at parsleys. So you got me on a yeah, so sage, parsley, chervil would be great. Oregano would be great. Yarrow, we don't sell yarrow seed, unfortunately. We don't have yarrow seed. We're struggling to import yarrow seed as well because of the carrot virus. But that's a good start. What you can also do now is that your summer herbs that are now coming to an end, things like your basils, your tarragons, etc., I would actually start drying them now. It's a very good time now to dry your summer herbs to be planting or to be using over winter. Helene, any advice against misvirums? I'm not 100% sure what your misvirum is you're talking about. I think you're talking about those white grubs that are inside your compost. Honestly, I would leave those white grubs in the compost. Those white grubs, unfortunately, you can't identify what they are by looking at the grub, or at least I can't. I'm pretty sure that there are some entomologists out there that are able to do that. But what you'll find is a lot of those worms are rhino beetle larvae. They are very important beetle larvae for our environment. Yes, some of them will be rose beetle larvae. And unfortunately, I don't know which one is which just by looking at the worms. So yeah, Terry, hey, how's it going? Hope you guys are doing well there. Tony, hey bud, how's it going? Madeleine, I'm in Cape Town. Our garden is literally a sand pit. I want to start preparing the soil, sand, for a veggie garden. It'll take some time. I'll probably only start planning after winter. Any tips with regards to prepping the soil on a budget? Yes, absolutely. So what I would do is I would not look at improving your sand pit. What I would look at doing is I would start building above the sand. So use the sand as your base. I would put down 2 or 3 layers of cardboard. I would go to your local agricultural store, get a couple of bales. If you've got a bucky, get a round bale. Otherwise, some square bales of either hay or straw. And I would lay that down on top of the compost right now. And you can start watering it. If you want to actually plant into that, you can plant directly into it. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to fertilize the hay or the straw. And when you put it down a good 10-15 centimeters thick, so it's proper thick. And if you're going to be planting directly into that, get some Talborn Organics fertilizer. Right now, I would look at getting the Talborn Organics, the Vita Green, which comes in a green bag. The Vita Green is very important, or it's very necessary for leaf crops. In winter, most of our crops are leaf crops. You're looking at planting your cabbages, your broccolis, your cauliflowers, your kales, your lettuce. Those are all leaf crops that will actually require a high nitrogen fertilizer. So the Talborn Organics Vita Green is what you're looking at. So I would put down about 150. If you're planting into pure straw, I'd put down about 150 grams per running meter of that fertilizer just to help feed those leaf crops. For the root crops, you're looking at the Talborn Organics Vita Grow, which is a yellow bag. It's a 232, so it's a very nice balanced fertilizer, but it helps develop very nice roots on your root crop. So yeah, Madeleine, I would go with that. That's a good start. Amor, hey, how's it going? Let's go down. Magdal, hi Sean. But for the small home grower, will we be able to use the carrots that we have to keep our own seeds? I'm asking as I'm aware that certain seeds cannot be grown again. Yes, so Magdal, how carrot flowers are produced is now's the time to be planting your carrots. Our carrots have been in the ground for about a month now. They're nice and good. They're looking very beautiful. If I had this mobile, I'd actually take you down to show you the tunnels, and maybe that might be a video to do a walk around of Living Seeds Farm. And we'll think about doing that. It might be an idea depending on what the demand is. But what you'd do is you'd plant your carrots in autumn. You'd allow the carrots to overwinter. So you don't actually harvest the carrots. In South Africa, we don't need to harvest the carrots. You'd allow them to overwinter in the soil. And that dormancy period for the carrots is critically important for them to actually produce a flower spike. It's called vernalization. So the carrots will overwinter in the soil. And then in spring, what happens is the carrots will start growing again. And as they start growing, they've been through their winter dormancy. They now push out a flower spike. And depending on the carrot variety, you're looking at carrot flowers being anywhere from about 0.5 meter, 70 centimeters tall, up to 2 meters tall. Some of those flower spikes are incredibly tall. And it produces flowers, and it produces a whole set of flowers. You have the king flower on top, which produces the best seed, and then all of the other flowers going down. So what Living Seeds does is we actually harvest the king flowers to produce our seed for next season. And then everything else gets sold as growing seed. And you just allow the flowers and the hojas to actually or to pollinate those flowers for you. And when they dry to a nice tan color, you'd harvest them, thresh the seed out. And that's how you can actually produce your own carrot seed. I would look at producing, if you're producing carrot seed, you can't produce a good diverse crop of carrots with less than about 100 plants. You've got to have 100 plants. If your seed population is too small, or your plant population is too small, what's going to happen is you're going to get what's called inbreeding depression, and you're not going to have a nice diverse population of seed or genetic diversity in the seed. Andre, hi. Sean, doen julle dit met saad wat uit Afrika ook kom? Yes, we do. Actually, we do. We grow a lot of African seed. I'm actually looking at a couple of African seeds right now. We've got some pigeon peas. I'll get Robert to go and pick me a branch of pigeon peas. We've got African peanuts growing that we're busy harvesting. We've got bambara nuts. We've got a number of African chili varieties that we're growing. The gourds right above me, this is a gourd called La Rocca. It's now virus. It's been hit by virus now. But what I'll do is I'll get a La Rocca gourd so I can show you what it looks like. So this is pigeon peas, and I see there's too much light behind me so that you can't really see what the pigeon peas look like. But if you have a look over here, let me get that in front of the camera. That's the flower of the pigeon pea. And this is the pod of the pigeon pea. So the pigeon pea, it's a legume, but it actually grows into a small little shrub. And our tree currently is about 2.5 meters tall. This is an African variety called La Rocca. Depending on which tribe it's grown for. This in Sotho, this is called La Rocca. And I've seen it in Sotho in a couple of other languages having a very similar name to La Rocca as well. But this is La Rocca. It's a very, very popular African gourd for eating, and it looks pretty as well. The actual physical pigeon pea, if you have a look over here, that is the actual physical pigeon pea. And we do sell pigeon peas on the website as well. So yes, we do it for African seeds as well. Judy, you can see and hear, that is fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Welcome. Terry, Mr. Barnsley, how does one determine the strength of a home compost heap? I'm not 100% sure exactly what you're asking. How does one determine the strength of a home compost heap? Terry, if you can just rephrase your question for me, I'll get back to it now. And also tell me what inputs you're putting in. Okay, Wayne. Builders in Meadowdale have been pushing professional potting mix as an alternative to things like germination mix. Fantastic. Wayne, I don't know the professional potting mix. I know there are a number of germination mixes out there. They generally all work. One of the reasons why I don't like the potting mix is, first of all, there isn't a vast amount of nutrition inside the potting mix. And the potting mix as well has very large air spaces between the material that actually make up the potting mix. And to germinate seedlings and things like that, it's not really great. The professional potting mix might have a much better composition. I don't know if putting the word professional on the front end is good, but yeah, if you have any experience with that, Wayne, we'd love to hear it. While we're talking about germination mixes, and it's something that we're going to be looking at doing for the new season, is Living Seeds makes our own germination mix, and we ran tests about 2 years ago on different compositions to make germination mixes. Robert is our seed pathologist, our resident seed pathologist on Living Seeds Farm, and he ran some tests the first year that he was here, and his tests formed the basis of the Living Seeds germination mix. And we'll be selling the components to make your own germination mix, because I do understand our germination mix is not cheap. It's not cheap for a number of reasons, but it's mainly because of the inputs that we put into our germination mix. So what we're going to do is we're going to be releasing the inputs to make germination mix, and we'll be giving you our recipe to actually make our own germination mix. Kathy, hi, good morning. Need to plan a monkey-proof garden. They're destroying nearly all of my beautiful veg. Any ideas? My glass gems were all eaten. Kathy, yeah, monkeys are a problem. What I would look at doing, if you look on our YouTube channel, you can find our YouTube channel, and what I'll do is I'll actually try and link a comment into this video on how to find our YouTube channel. But the YouTube channel is called Living Seeds Farm. So I'm pretty sure if you just search on YouTube for Living Seeds Farm, you'll be able to find our YouTube channel. But on there, we've got a very quick video, and I don't know if you can see the tunnels behind me. It might be a little bit light, but I've got some tunnels behind me. And we actually bend those tunnel frames ourselves. And there's a quick 2 or 3 minute video on YouTube that shows you how to bend those tunnel frames. And there's a lot more to building the tunnel than just bending the frame. And what we'll probably look at doing is actually doing a full workshop on how to actually build tunnels from scratch. But look at building a tunnel. It's relatively easy, and all you just need is a trampoline frame. So I would look at doing that, and then putting either some kind of mesh. You can buy rolls of mesh at your local agri shop, or put a low percentage shade cloth. So put like a 20% shade cloth, a 20% white or 20% green or blue or something along those lines, just to help protect your crops. Oh, there's raised beds with the cages. Maybe what I will do is I'll show you. Let me actually just see if I can do this. Robert, just give me a hand over here. Okay, so what we've got is we've got a raised bed with a cage. And this is one of Robert's designs. So let me see over here. Robert, just show them how it works. Okay, so if you have a look, this is a raised bed that we made out of pine planking. We filled it up, and then Robert, the plastic tube over here, this is just normal electrical conduit. And we've got, I think it is a 20 by 20 wire mesh on it. It's on hinges at the back, and Robert will show you now. There we go. And he's got a little pole that he can use to hold it up. And inside here, there's spinach, there's Swiss chard, there's basil inside here, there's a whole variety of things. So this might be one way that you can do to actually protect raised beds against monkeys. Hope that helps. Yeah, you might have to latch it closed because monkeys are really adept at learning how to open things. So I hope that helps. Okay, let me see. Did we miss anybody? Olivia, did you guys rest? Yeah, we we did rest. I think maybe we had one day off. It was my daughter's my second eldest daughter's 21st birthday on Saturday. Sorry, on Friday. On Friday. So she celebrated her 21st birthday on Friday with just the family, and she was a little bit put out because it was the perfect 21st, because Friday was a holiday and it was a long weekend and she wasn't able to go out. Maggie, times are tough right now. You are right. Times are tough. This lockdown is just something incredible. Leonie Harmse, morning. 2 questions. When do I pull my summer squash? Leonie, what you need to do is, there probably isn't enough day length now for the plants to set proper fruit. You might get flowering, but you're not going to get a proper fruit set. And depending on where you are, your pumpkin fly pressure now is going to be astronomical. Even if you have traps out, the pumpkin fly pressure is going to be too high. If you see there's a mottling on the leaves, and I'll get Robert to pull a leaf for me, so I can show you what a virus-infected leaf looks like. So virus infection happens. It's one of those things that happen. You'll either get virus that's seed transmitted, or you'll get virus that's insect transmitted. So let's see if we can do this over here. If you look at that leaf, you can see that there's like sort of yellow patches, and the virus will look different depending on what virus is infecting the plant. But normally it looks like yellow streaks, yellow patches. What you'll see is that the leaf shape will change on certain viruses, where it won't have the normal leaf shape. The leaf will become thin and straggly, and it'll look odd. What I'll try and do this afternoon, I'll get my wife to make a note. If you have a look on Living Siege, I'll actually post a couple of pictures of what virus-infected plants and fruit look like, just so that you know. And it's just important that you don't save the seed from virus-infected plants, which is one of the reasons why we do our pumpkin very early in the season, so that we can actually ensure that we produce virus-free seed. The fruits are still edible. Nothing's going to happen to you if you eat them. Okay, so Leonie, your second question. And do peppers, chilies naturally have a bad time this year? Do I prune them, feed them, or leave them? Okay, so peppers and chilies right now should be the absolute best time for your peppers and chilies. They've had a whole summer's growing season. If you fed them well, they should be looking good. They should be producing like the blazers. Our primary chili harvest happens between the beginning of February all the way through until the middle of May. We normally get a frost around the last week in April. It's a light dusting of a frost, and we leave our pollination covers on our pepper plants. And then after that first frost, we normally lift the covers, and we actually start harvesting like mad. Okay, do I prune them, feed them, or leave them? Okay, so with regards to pruning, there's different schools of thoughts. Do I prune? Don't I prune? If you are in a frost-free environment, or you have very low frost, like in the low single digits, 2-3 degrees frost, what I would do is I wouldn't prune them. I'd allow the frost to actually hit the plants and leave the plant like that without pruning it until spring. After it starts to warm up and there's no danger of frost, then prune your plant, because what will happen is that dead material on the plant is not going to look pretty, but it actually protects the core of the plant from any additional frost damage. Do I feed them or leave them? If you I really wouldn't feed the plants now unless you're looking at an extended harvest. If you are in a frost-free area, feed the plants now. You're going to get at least another one, if not two flushes off the plant. Okay, if the plants are in pots, what I would do is I would actually move them indoors and I wouldn't actually prune them. Okay, I have a yarrow plant that I can divide. I stay in here, Derby. Judy van der Westhuizen. Fantastic, Judy. We would love a piece of that yarrow plant to put into our show garden and get some seed off it. What you can do, I will get Eloise. It's not going to be until the end of lockdown, but I'll make a note for Eloise to give you a shout at the end of lockdown when we can arrange a courier to collect or something along those lines. I presume if you're offering, that would be great. Thank you. Royce, I've noticed dung beetles in horse manure compost as well as the white baby grubs. Fantastic. You know, dung beetles, Royce, if you've got dung beetles, it just says so much about how you're managing your property. Dung beetles are so important. And it's one of those things that if you have dung beetles on your property, congratulations. It just tells me a lot about how well you are managing your property, and that's just fantastic. Okay, Carolina, any other plants similar to marigolds that we can plant in between all veggies as natural bug repellent? Carolina, there are many plants. If you look at companion planting, there are a number of plants that will benefit other plants as well. The story goes marigolds with everything, and it probably is a very good thing to have. You just need to plant the right marigolds, because there are two marigolds that you can plant, and you want the Tagetes marigold, which is a really great bug repellent. A lot of people say to me that you can plant lavender in between the plants. They repel certain pests, or they attract certain pollinators, and they absolutely do. I don't know about the pest control. What we find on Living Seeds Farm, we don't really have a methodology that we use that we will plant this to prevent that. There's just so many things that we need to plant and get going at any one time. But what we find is that we have pest cycles. So a very good example, last year we planted okra. I think we sell about 15 different kinds of okra. And last year we planted a whole row of okra, and we had all of the different okras in our show garden, and they were absolutely stunning. We had zero issues. We had minimal aphid issues on the okra last year, and they just looked beautiful the whole season. This year we planted okra, I think 2 beds down, and from the outset, the okra was absolutely hammered by flea beetles, which is something we just have never had on Living Seeds Farm before. But we had a flea beetle infestation second to none, and it was totally incredible. So, your pest cycles, as long as you're running an organic garden, your pest cycles, you'll find that they go up and down. This year, you're going to have a problem with something. You're probably not going to have the same problem next year as well. Okay. There is, yes, sorry, Nicholas just reminded me, if you download our catalog off our website, there's very good companion planting information in our catalog, and some of our seed packets have companion planting on the back as well. When do I harvest sweet potato? It keeps making new shoots. Judy, harvest your sweet potato. Now's the time. I suppose it depends when you planted your sweet potatoes, but if you ordered your cuttings from Living Seeds, we would have supplied the cuttings for you at the right time. And if you planted them then, you'd be harvesting sweet potatoes now. Yes, the plants will continue growing. It's not like a normal potato. Just make sure that you leave 1 or 2 in the ground so that you can get a free crop next year. Okay, Byron replying to Royce. More than likely, rhino beetle larvae are harmless to plants, or in my case, 0 damage in the season for peppers. There we go. Marlies Mulman, are we allowed to visit the farm? Yes, absolutely, you're allowed to visit the farm. Not during lockdown, though. Okay, so Living Seeds Farm is open to the public every single Friday. You're allowed to come. You can walk through the show garden. You can pick. You can taste to your heart content. This is just not a supermarket where you can take stuff home with you. But otherwise, while you're here, you can taste things. We normally try and have a very wide selection of things growing. And what you'll find is that the Living Seed Show Garden goes through cycles. So we will have a month where our tomatoes are absolutely at their peak. The following month, probably the beans. The next month, it'll be the lettuce. Right now, our brinjals or our eggplants are looking stunning. Our lettuce is looking stunning. Our peppers and chilies are looking stunning. The hugelculture gardens are looking great. The keyhole gardens are looking great. There's a lot of leaf crops that are coming up nicely. So it's worthwhile coming to visit every second month at least, just to see what's happening in the show garden. We don't do tours of the actual farm. Unfortunately, we just don't have the staff to do that. And there's no charge to come and live. There's no charge to come and have a look at the show garden at all. Okay, I'd love to see a tour of Living Seeds Farm. Okay, we will look at doing that. It's on Elena. We'll look at doing that. Probably not this week, but we'll sit down and just try and get some logistics around it and see how we can actually make that work. Christine would love to see what you guys are doing. Fantastic. Hi, Sean. If I want to start a square foot gardening on a table, how deep is the minimum depth of the container? Sanette, I would square foot gardening on a table. I'm not very au fait with square foot gardening. Okay, what we have done this winter is we've increased our planting density quite substantially. I know there are a number of people on Living Seeds veggie gardeners that do practice square foot gardening, and maybe if someone's listening, it would be great if they can respond to you. But I would say you're looking at a minimum depth of about 20 centimeters. When you're looking at container gardening, always go for the largest container possible. A walkabout over Facebook would be great. Yes, we shall do that. That was Judy. There we go. Elizabeth Mayer, we'd love to see a virtual tour of the farm. Okay, cool. Yes, I own it. Yes, absolutely. Machtel, thanks. Wow. Thanks to your page by month. I lost that. Thanks to your plant by month by the web page. Mine are popping up already. 100. Oh goodness, I have 2 containers only. Well, there we go. Okay, how do I get rid of ants and how do I make my strawberries to fruit? Okay, so Salome, it depends on what kind of ants and what damage they're doing. If it's those little tiny little black Argentinian ants, what I would look at doing is put down a 50-50 mixture of borax and sugar. Those ant traps, the non-toxic ant traps that you buy in the shops, that's basically what's inside them, is a mixture of borax and sugar. And what that does is it does destroy the ants, unfortunately. But that's one of the ways that you can do it. You can use diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth, we use diatomaceous earth in very selected instances. The problem with diatomaceous earth is it's a mechanical pesticide, so it's indiscriminate. It doesn't matter what you put it on. If an insect gets the diatomaceous earth onto it, it is going to die. How diatomaceous earth works, and a lot of people believe that it cuts into the insect or whatever, and that is not true. Diatomaceous earth is highly hygroscopic, which means that it actually absorbs water. And it'll absorb water out of the air. That's how hygroscopic it is. So what happens is, if there's a dusting of diatomaceous earth on the actual insect, what happens is the diatomaceous earth absorbs the lipids out of the wax that covers the exoskeleton of the insect. And because the wax dries out, that wax starts to crack. And the minute that the wax starts to crack, the insect loses its integrity because the exoskeleton of the insect actually keeps the moisture inside the insect. So as that wax cracks up, it loses the insect loses its body's integrity and it dehydrates. And that's how diatomaceous earth kills an insect. So no, it's not poisonous, but it is mechanical. Okay, and how do I make my strawberries to fruit? What I would look at doing is I would look at putting down some Talborn Organics Vita Fruit and Flour. If you look at it comes in the red bag, and look also at about 100 grams per square meter. Okay, I'd love to see your tour. How do you know when to harvest Egyptian walking onions? Okay, Cornelia, Egyptian walking onions, you can harvest them literally at any time of the year. The nice thing with the Egyptian walking onions is it makes a bunch, and you can lift the entire bunch up, take what you need and plant a couple back. And if you keep doing that over the season, what you'll find is that your population of Egyptian walking onions it literally explodes. Sonia Rudman, hey Sonia, Bierman, thank you for this Q&A. I'm learning a lot. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Bonnie Stein, hi Sean, how often must I water my garlic over winter? We're in KwaZulu-Natal, so no winter rainfall. My giant garlic as well as the Egyptian pink and white are coming up nicely. Okay, Bonnie, fantastic. So we use a very scientific method of watering our garlic, and I would advise that you actually employ the same scientific method. Take your finger, you stick it into the soil. If the soil is dry or only very slightly damp, water your garlic. That's basically what you need to do. Look, a garlic does not like dry soil. So what you need to do is you need to keep the soil, there needs to be a constant soil moisture. And the best way to ensure that you have a nice constant soil moisture is to put down a nice thick mulch on top of your garlic. So go and get a couple of bales of straw, some shavings, some compost would be great. There's a video on YouTube as well on our YouTube channel called Living Seeds Farm on how to grow great garlic. That video, watch the video a couple of times, make some notes. It's very important. Okay, so Royce is answering Byron. Olivia Lagrange. There is confusion regarding your info bar on seed packets. The highlighted months, does that include months that the seeds can actually be germinated as well? Okay, so if you look on the info bar, we have noticed a couple of the info bars. We had a young lady working for us that, let's just say we had some issues. And we are re-looking at our info bars on certain things. If you look at the info bar starts in August. So it goes from August, September, October, all the way down, because our planting season in the Southern Hemisphere starts in August. So that is when we start. If you look at the bottom of the info bar, that is when the month starts, or when yes, okay, it starts in August. So if you look at that info bar, if it tells you that there is a letter in that month for August, you can plant the seed in that month, yes. The info bar specifically is designed around planting of the seed. There is information on how tall it grows and how to space it. But as we are a seed company and we are trying to help you plant the best seed or plant the seed at the right time, the info bar has been designed around the actual planting of the seed. So if it tells you on the info bar, it can be planted in those months. Those are the months that you can plant it in. Okay. Keith Roxburgh. Hey, Keith. I have a home compost heap. I would like to know what its efficacy is. Okay. So, and then I see Terry's question is just below. Will I need to mix the compost with soil to a specific ratio? Our compost is largely chicken house bedding, shavings. Do we also add we also do add veggie cuttings? I was worried that the compost may be too strong and damage the veggie roots. Okay, Terry, thank you. And then going back to Keith's question, I have a home compost heap. I'd like to know what its efficacy is. Okay, so I'm presuming and I'll try and answer both questions together. Building compost heaps, depending on who you listen to and which methodology you use, there are a number of different ways. You need to have your N ratio and your dry matter and your green matter, and it has to go in a certain ratio and all of those wonderful things. On Terry's question, I know that you actually grow chickens for a living, or you raise chickens for a living. So I think your compost is going to be relatively strong. What I would look at doing is I would make sure that the compost is broken down correctly before you put it onto the soil. And the best way to tell if your compost is broken down correctly, pick it up and smell it. Does it smell like compost? If it still smells like chicken or chicken manure, Terry, you would need to either recompost it or blend it with some normal compost or some normal soil. As to what ratio, it's very difficult to tell you without seeing it or having a look. But what you can do is put some of your compost down on a couple of your plants. If you see that it's actually literally burning the plants, you probably need to recompost it or actually blend it. Keith, I'd like to know what the efficacy of the compost heap is. The efficacy of the compost heap is entirely dependent on what you put into the compost heap. So if you have a lot of a high carbon, a lot of brown matter that goes into your compost heap, what you'll find is that it will cook at a much lower temperature, and you'd need to blend some green material into it. That green material will help to increase the temperature of the compost heap and stimulate it. You'd need to be watering it as well. If you're adding a lot of kitchen waste in as well, that would be classified as green matter as well. Okay, Wayne's put a link up, I presume. Oh, there we go. There we go, Wayne. Thank you very much. Elizabeth Mayer, Living Seeds Farm video on bending the tunnel. Fantastic, guys. You are awesome. Okay. Gregory Whittle, hi Wayne. Professional potting mix is perfect to use as an alternative. It's what the commercial seedling growers use in their nursery to fill their packs. No large pieces of bark that have not been properly decomposed. Fantastic, Gregory. Thank you very much for that information. Sarah Ashwell. Hi, Sarah. I have made hoops around my veggie patches to keep out monkeys, but I use polycop, I presume polyprop pipe, and it's working better than I used polycop pipe. I don't know what the polycop pipe is, and it's working better than the white conduit piping. I think the polycop pipe might be the red piping, or that reddish piping. Okay, succession planting, would love to hear some info regarding that. Okay, succession planting, morning Karen. Okay, so a succession planting is when you plant multiple crops of the same thing. And the way I like to look at succession planting is that you would look at when you would typically harvest the first crop, and you would plant the succession plant to be ready as soon after your first harvest has been completed. So let me give you an example. Succession planting of Swiss chard. A Swiss chard plant, I know of Swiss chard plants that are 2 years old. Okay, so when do you succession plant? Well, it's entirely up to you how you manage your Swiss chard plants. We will typically succession plant Swiss chard plants normally once or twice a year on Living Seeds Farm. So that's every 6 months or so. If you look at dry beans, so if you want to be succession planting dry beans, so a dry bean, the crop is harvested when the dry bean is ready, and that's normally, depending on the dry bean variety, anything from about 75 to 90, 110 days. Those are your dry beans. So you'd be planting your next batch of dry beans to fit into that. Succession planting of head lettuces versus succession planting of leaf lettuce. A head lettuce, you harvest the entire head. A leaf lettuce, you would harvest leaves and you'd only need a replacement lettuce plant once that plant actually bolts. And it also then depends on what variety of lettuce you are planting. So, for example, black-seeded Simpson it's a very nice, very tasty. It's a very early producing leaf lettuce variety, but it bolts like this. So you would need to succession plant your black-seeded Simpson a lot earlier than, for example, Melody lettuce, which is probably one of the nicest tasting loose leaf lettuce varieties. We really struggle to get Melody lettuce to bolt. So you'd have that as well. Okay. Succession planting, for example, of tomato varieties, you'd succession plant a tomato variety every, I would say you'd look at planting every 90 days on tomatoes. Unless you are really hammering the plants hard. So yes, succession planting, you'd need to have a look at your crop. It's not a case of planting every 2 weeks. It just really isn't worth it. That is not succession planting. Succession planting is specifically what you would plant around, how you would plant around the actual harvest of the plant, and that you can work out pretty quickly, pretty easily. Okay, Elena, no, the farm is closed to visitors during lockdown. On Elena, yes, you're 100% correct. The farm is closed to visitors during the lockdown, and we will not appreciate anybody just arriving. Emil, good morning. Saritha, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm enjoying this. Susan, ordered seeds last week, waiting to hear when it will be delivered. Susan, or Suzanne, yes, we are running about 3 days behind on our order processing. We're getting anywhere between 100 and 120 orders a day. We typically have 2 people that process orders. We currently have 5 people processing orders and a team of 3 people packing seed to assist those 5 people. So we've really pulled out all of the stops to get the orders out. We are trying hard. I had my staff working last week Saturday, so they worked the whole of the week. They worked last week Saturday. But we'll get there. Yeah, our kids are working as well, so that's fantastic. Okay, so let's go. Yeah, we just ask for a little bit of patience over there, but we will get your orders out. Can I plant, Sarah Ashwell, can I plant sweet potato under apple trees as a living mulch? I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. What I would look at doing is, if you've got multiple apple trees, I would plant your sweet potatoes under 2 or 3 of the apple trees and just see what it does over a season. If you can't see any detrimental outcomes for the apple trees, then plant the rest. Tagiti's marigold for bug control. Elizabeth, thank you very much. Al-Qaday, I have nematodes affecting roots in one bed and thinking to replace the soil. Let's just go back up there again. I have nematodes affecting roots in one bed and thinking to replace the soil. How deep would I need to go? And would it be okay to put soil in the normal garden beds that would impact normal plants too? Okay, so Alka, I'm not sure what nematodes that you have. I don't know if they're affecting tomato plants or if they're affecting carrots or something along those lines. But if you've got root knot nematodes that are affecting your tomato plants, what I would look at doing is I would plant, and now's the perfect time, I would leave the soil inside there and I'd plant something like radishes. If you buy our sprouting daikon radish, those radish would help to get rid of the nematodes. Or I'd look at planting onions or garlic inside those beds. Don't take that soil and move it somewhere else in the garden. All you're doing is just spreading the problem around. And then I wouldn't plant whatever crop is growing there now. I wouldn't plant that crop for the next 2 years, or a family of that crop. So a good example is if you've got tomatoes inside there and they're being affected by root knot nematode, I wouldn't plant peppers, I wouldn't plant chilies, I wouldn't plant brinjals, eggplants, or tomatillos or something along those lines. Okay, on Elena, I've made an impromptu yellow aphid trap using sellotape. All it has caught is very small black flies and a white fly here and there, but no aphids. Okay, so, all right, so the yellow aphid traps, if you're putting those yellow aphid cards up to catch the aphids, they're only going to catch the flying aphids. If you want to mass trap for flying aphids, you need to be putting those yellow aphid traps up, those yellow aphid cards up, one card every 10 square meters if you're looking at mass trapping. Otherwise, it's going to be used for monitoring. Okay, yeah, I'm not 100% sure how you made the yellow aphid trap using sellotape. If you put it on some yellow card or something along those lines. But we can come back if you. What you can do is actually just put a post up on Living Seeds Veggie Gardeners of what you've done or what you're trying to achieve. Okay. Okay. Andre, why don't anybody use sheep manure? Too much nitrogen, or what is the problem? Okay, Andre, we use cattle manure, we use sheep manure, we use chicken manure. There is no reason why you shouldn't use sheep manure. If you look at the manure profile going from strongest down to the weakest, sheep manure is probably the second weakest. So you've got chicken manure at the top. It's incredibly hot, will burn your plants. It goes down to pig, to sheep, and then to cattle manure. And my personal opinion is horse manure is below cattle manure. Okay. I use it constantly. Okay. Mario Sales, hi. Just an idea. Could you give us a virtual tour? Yes, Mario. We did speak about that, and it's something on the cards. Steve Wilkinson, 80 for carrots. I presume you're saying minimum planting quantity. Yeah. 80 would be absolute minimum. Okay. Heather Bezaidenote, can you plant potatoes now? I live in the Eastern Cape. Yes, in the Eastern Cape, as long as you're not getting frost, I can't see why you can't plant potatoes now. Steve, hi guys. Yes, Steve, how's it going? Okay, Timothy Erickson. Do you have tips on getting onions and chives, etc., to germinate? Timothy, yes. Number one, your seed needs to be fresh. Your onion and chive seed, we don't sell onion seed that is older than 2 years old. At 3 years, we try and sell onion seed that's actually a year old. But 2 years is an absolute push. If your seed is older than 3 years, you probably have old seed. What I would look at doing is I would look at planting the seed very shallowly. So you're looking at, when planting seed in general, okay, your general rule of planting seed is that the seed planting depth needs to be 3 times the size of the seed. So if you're planting your onion seed deeper than 3 times the size of the seed, that might be a problem as well. So plant it very shallowly, but use fresh seed. Otherwise, it shouldn't be a problem. It's very easy seed to germinate. Okay, Paul Miller, how do you keep your drip irrigation line straight and in place? Paul, we do a couple of things. So one of the things that we do is we actually make a peg that we stick into the ground, and we attach the end of the drip irrigation to that peg. Or what you do is out in the fields, is we actually take a rock, we wrap the drip irrigation around the rock, put the rock down, and actually apply a bit of tension just to keep it nice and straight. Very simple. Okay. Sarah van Hon, would planting in SA be the same season as planting in Vilanculos, Mozambique? Bon dia, Sarah. It's just warmer all year round in Mozambique. Yes, you're fortunate that you're able to plant things a lot longer. So certain things that require cold or a cold period to bulb correctly, some of your garlic varieties require cold to bulb correctly. So instead of that, plant the Egyptian, not the Egyptian, plant the giant garlic or the Egyptian white garlic. That might do well in Mozambique. I've got a Mozambique garlic variety that we're busy growing over here, which is a hardneck garlic variety, which we're actually quite excited about. But yes, your seasons are a lot more extended. You have a lot more leeway with what you can plant and what you can get away with. On the flip side, you have pests all year round. So you'd need to look at doing some kind of spray program for your pests. Okay, guys, I see we're approaching an hour already. I can't believe it's been an hour. And I'm going to try and get you to the bottom of all of the questions, and then we're going to call it for the day. Okay, Lee, why am I not getting fruit from fruit trees, peaches, pomegranates, plums, apples? We prune every August, admitting we don't nourish much. I think you answered your question over there. Look at putting down on your fruit trees. I think August is a little bit late to be pruning. I would be pruning fruit trees in late June, early July, basically in the dead of winter. Don't prune in August. A lot of the fruit trees, the sap has started to run, which might be a bit of an issue. When you're feeding your fruit trees, put down, we put down between 300 and 500 grams of Vitafruit flour on each fruit tree every year. So look at feeding your fruit trees. If you want fruit, look at actually feeding your fruit trees. One of the things that you need to look at doing is just work out the value of the fruit that you're actually getting off the tree. And the average fruit tree will give you hundreds of rands of fruit. If you're looking at a lime tree or a lemon tree, it's a good couple of 100 rand off each fruit tree. So if you put down 20 or 30 rands fertilizer on each fruit tree, it really, really is worthwhile doing it. Please give the name of the organic fertilizer that you use. Helene, if you look on Living Seeds, on livingseeds.co.za, under garden supplies, there is a fertilizer section, and we only recommend Talborn Organics fertilizer. We've been using them for as long as Living Seeds has been going, actually even before that. And it's the only fertilizer that we recommend. Okay. Emil answered my question. Thank you. Terry, only a pleasure. Marlies Moelman, I bought some of the bugs for. I just lost that. I bought some of the bugs for spider mites. Do I have to replace them every season, or will they continue breeding? I'm struggling with spider mites again. Okay, Marlies, unfortunately, depending on which bugs you got, if you got the Spidex, which is the Persimmilus mite, it comes in a tall tube, and that mite only lives on red spider mite. So once it's wiped out your red spider mite, what you'll find is that they will actually die out, and you'd need to replace them. If you are using the Ultimite, which comes in a little sachet, it's a Swirsky Ultimite. The Swirsky Ultimite lives on a number of mite species. So, and in addition to that, it's actually able to live on the pollen of certain plants. So it can live on corn pollen, tomato pollen, pepper pollens, etc. So it's actually able to have a constant population just living off pollen. And then the Swirsky mites eat a whole host of things. They'll eat thrips, they'll eat whitefly larvae, they'll eat red spider mite, they'll eat broad mites. And they will survive a lot longer in the season, but unfortunately, if you have frost, it'll wipe them out as well. So you'd need to replace them. If you're having issues with red spider mite, look, we are a month away from some serious frost. And the red spider mite's not going to survive the frost. So if you're having a huge problem with the red spider mite, look at vining sulfur or dusting sulfur. Look at spraying with Nudisan, 50% of the minimum strength. So if you look on the bottle, on the BioGrow bottle, it gives you, it says spray between 10 and 20 mils per liter. Take the 10 mils and cut it in half, and that's what you should be using. Okay, Bessie, when's the best time to plant potatoes? Spring is normally the best time. So there's normally two seasons. There's an early season and a late season. Spring is normally when we send out our seed potatoes, and we normally try and do a second planting of seed potatoes in January. We missed it this year, unfortunately. Okay, Sarah van Hon, loving this. Thank you. How often do you do this talk so I can check in? Sarah, this is the first time we've done it. But I see it's quite popular, so it's cool. Elizabeth Mayer, thank you. Really enjoyed the session. Absolute pleasure. Greg Khan, hi Sean. How do we know when to harvest our sweet potatoes? Sweet potatoes, if you planted sweet potatoes from the cuttings that we supplied earlier in the season, now's the right time to be harvesting them. Knock yourself out. Zikona, hi Sean, so glad to have found your Facebook group. Used to be a member of your forum years ago. Yeah, that was a while back, eh? Okay, we planted sweet potatoes last July. Should we pull them out? Yes, absolutely, knock yourselves out. How do we get rid of moles in vegetable beds? Okay, so moles are a huge problem on Living Seeds Farm, and what we did was we invested in a couple of those mole buzzer, bzzz, like sort of every 20 seconds it goes bzzz, in the soil. And what we find is that it doesn't drive the moles off immediately, but once it's there for a month or two, or actually a couple of weeks, that mole buzzer, it does the job. I've seen people sink rods into the ground and they've put a Coke bottle with some fins that makes a propeller. We actually haven't tried that, and it might be cheaper than doing the 300-400 rand a pop. Okay, Sikona, is a 20 centimeter container enough for sowing garlic? 20 centimeters deep, 20 centimeters in diameter. 20 centimeters deep should be fine. Just make sure that you watch your soil moisture, and make sure that the container isn't a dark color. You want the container to be as cool as possible. Have a look, Zikona, have a look at our Living Seeds Facebook, our Living Seeds Farm YouTube channel. There's a video on growing garlic there. Just have a look at that video, and just try and follow as many of those principles as possible in your container garden. More, can we order irrigation kits at the moment? Will you still do a carrot Hessian method video? More, yes, you can still order irrigation kits. We have plenty of irrigation available, and I know our irrigation supplier is an essential services provider as well. I can't see us running out. We do have a lot of stock at the moment. Okay. Will you still do a carrot Hessian method video? Yes, we will. We shall make a note of that. Marlene, hello, how are you? Timothy Erickson, thanks Sean, we'll try planting a bit shallower. When would you say the latest you can plant sweet potato? Well, it's now a case of when is the earliest you can plant sweet potato. It's too late to plant sweet potato plants now unless you're in a frost-free environment. Sweet potato plants, we need to wait. So Living Seeds Farm, we get down to a good winter, and I'm being serious, a really good winter for us is about a week of -10. So our sweet potato plants get hammered back like really, really well. So we have to wait until the end of October before we can actually start harvesting runners off of sweet potato plants. So we only start supplying sweet potato plants end of October. So yeah, that's the earliest that you can plant. Masabata, hey back, Jana. Okay, Julian Evans, do pepper plants need to be soaked before propagating? Do pepper seeds need to be soaked before propagating? Julian, it depends. If you're growing normal pepper seeds, stick them straight into the soil, they're gonna germinate, and that's most of your sweet peppers, your mild to normal peppers. If you're looking at super hots, I would highly recommend that you soak them. Every person has a different method of soaking, using a whole variety of different methods, chamomile teas and peroxide. I personally like chicken poo. It's a strange thing, but if you understand how wild chilies are propagated, the seed actually goes through the bird's gut, gets pooed out at the end, and that helps to stimulate. We do a lot of work with wild chili seed varieties on Living Seeds Farm, and the wild chili varieties, we've had very good success using chicken poo to germinate them, but we soak them in a mix of chicken poo. It's not a nice polite subject, but you can think about the logistics, and we use gloves and all of those wonderful things. Sarah, thank you so much. When you say spray, we have difficulty getting anything. When you say spray, we have difficulty getting anything. Is there something I can do regarding companion planting, or would you recommend that I get it? SA, please let me know. Okay, Sarah, I'm not following the question over here. We'd have to come back to that. Okay. Are you the lady in Mozambique? Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sorry, my wife Nicola has a better memory than I do. Thank you so much. When you say spray, we have difficulty getting anything. Is there something I can do regarding companion planting, or what would you recommend? And I will get it in SA. Please let me know how I know that you are doing this talk, so I can make sure I log in. Okay, so Sarah, there's a number of information. There's a lot of information in our catalog on companion planting. There is information on companion planting on Living Seeds Veggie Gardeners as well. There's a lot of people that do companion planting. I'm not an expert on companion planting, so I really, it's one of those subjects that I don't have a lot of knowledge on, so I can't really comment on it. But there are people that know a lot more than I do. I know Margaret Roberts, the late Margaret Roberts, she's got a book on companion planting. I actually do have a book on companion planting, but I don't use it. But there are people that'll be able to assist you. When I'm doing this talk again, this is the first time we've done the talk, and there seems to be a lot of good feedback on the talk, so we'll probably do it again. And we'll let you know via our Facebook group. Okay, Mario, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure. Sinette, I have lots of gems and tomatoes that came up in my compost from store-bought veg. Can I just leave it there as compost, as it's not the season, or can I replant them? Sinette, if you're going to get frost, they're going to die. Simple as that. If you're not going to get frost, they're probably going to survive. You're going to have a virus issue, especially at this time of the season. Okay, is it too late for planting tomatoes? Masabate, yes. Definitely too late for planting tomatoes unless you are in a frost-free environment. Jacques Pretorius, hi Sean, hope you're well. How big of a problem are ants for our veggies that are growing in containers, raised beds, or do we learn to accept and live with them? Look, if they're not causing any issues, it really shouldn't be an issue with the ants. If you find that the ants are actually eating your veggies or destroying the veggies, look at a 50-50 borax and water. Take 1 tablespoon of borax, 1 tablespoon of 50-50 mix of borax and sugar. 1 tablespoon of borax, a tablespoon of sugar. Try and use that fine caster sugar or something along those lines, and then just put a little bit of water in just to make it a crumbly mix. It mustn't be too wet. Okay, Zekona, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. Informative session, living in Kenya. At the moment, really missing Living Seeds. Vilma, you guys stay safe in Kenya. I see the wind has picked up, so if you see the screen shaking like this, I think the weather's coming in. No, there's no weather coming in. This is the wind. Oh, the weather's coming in from Joburg side. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, how do I get rid of the mice birds? They're attacking my green beans and leaves. Antonio, bird netting is your answer. Okay, I see we've come down to the end over here. Inga, you changed my life regarding planting crops. Inga, wow. Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure. Guarding my gate, waiting for an order to be delivered. Thanks for all your hard work. Guys, thank you very much. Yeah, this is the end of our live video. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It's always nervous doing something for the first time. But yeah, guys, we'll do this again. I think what I'll do is we'll make a plan to do this as a walk around and just take you through Living Seed Show Garden before the frosts come, just to see, well, Show Garden and the farm, so you can just see what we do on the farm and how we do things. But yeah, guys, and that probably won't be me answering questions. It'll be me just walking around, because I'll have to use my phone, and looking into the phone's not going to be the easiest thing. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. You guys have an awesome day. And yeah, keep safe, guys. And let's hope this lockdown comes to an end as a matter of urgency. Cheers, guys.